Hi, this is Ferdinand Engländer for Animator Island. I'm standing here in Stuttgart, Germany, in front of the world's largest origami convention. What? It's not the origami convention? What is this then? What? Oh, it's the FMX? Yeah, okay. The FMX is one of Europe's most influential conferences of the animation, VFX and games industry. Very, very talented people from all over the world gather here to discuss their newest projects and technologies. Let's go!
I'm from Tilburg in the Netherlands.
I'm from America.
The Democratic Republic of Congo.
I'm originally from Sri Lanka.
Indonesia.
Yeah, I come from China.
I think FMX is more film focused and goes into the technique.
Mostly I expect having kind of an overall look on what's been happening during the past year.
A lot of information and more knowledge about how to do things.
I like how do they tackle their challenges when they're doing the animation.
I'm here to see how people do the films that I love and like games, films, everything.
Dass man hier wirklich die Möglichkeit hat, sich auszutauschen und eben auch die Kontakte zu knüpfen.
I think the most special part is so much more lectures here and so much more famous international group will come here.
Also talks and seminars from really great and interesting people in the industry.
It stays high level and still very interesting for people making visual effects and animation.
Ja, das ist also für mich ist es so wie ein zweites Weihnachten im Jahr.
Unfortunately, we cannot record in most lectures because the material that the speakers show there is so secret, unreleased or copyright protected that it would burn our camera's eyes. Instead, I'll be interviewing some very, very talented people from all over the world, from different companies who share their knowledge and experience with us. One of the highlights for animation enthusiasts at the FMX are definitely the presentations of Pixar. They give an amazing behind-the-scenes look to their newest productions. I'm talking now to Saschka Unseld, who is the writer and director of the new Pixar short, The Blue Umbrella, which will be running in front of Monsters University. In Pixar, you weren't working as a writer at first. How did it come that you were writing and directing this short now?
At Pixar, I started in 2008 and I worked as a camera and staging artist, which is basically layout and cinematography. And at Pixar, everyone who works there can pitch a short film idea. And I thought I'll just try it. I didn't expect it to work, but I thought I directed short films before. I have a couple of ideas I like. So the way that works is you meet up with the development department there. You talk about the ideas you have and they kind of give you feedback and you work more on the ideas. And once you're ready, once the development department feels like the ideas are strong enough and enough developed to be pitched, you basically first pitch them to a board of directors, which was Pete Docter, who directed Monsters, Inc., and Pete Sohn, who directed the short Partly Cloudy and is now co-directing with Bob Peterson, who was also in the panel, The Good Dinosaur that comes out next year. And a couple of heads of story who are all amazing. So I pitched them my idea, or actually you pitch them 3 ideas. You can't just pitch one, you have to pitch 3 ideas. And I pitched them my 3 ideas, so I told them the story. I just had a couple of pictures to underline main story points, but everything else was just verbally telling the story. And they really liked one idea, and they thought John Lasseter might like that idea too. And then we set up a meeting with John Lasseter where I pitched him this idea, and he really loved it, and then we got to do it. So it's a relatively open door thing that anyone can meet up with development and talk with them about ideas they would like to pitch.
How is work assigned at Pixar? Could you select the people that work on the film with you, or could somebody just ask for a position or shot?
Yeah, the selection of the crew was, it's a mixed thing. So, I mean, first off, I don't know everyone who works at Pixar, so I might not be the best person to select people because I don't know everyone. So it's a mix. We had set up meetings for the main positions. So the CG supervisor, for example, I met with a couple of people who would be good for the role, and just chatted with them about it, what they think the challenges were. And it's basically about, is there good chemistry for a team? And the same thing happened with the production manager, the producer, and the lighting DP and the layout DP. So the heads of the departments are all kind of nearly like, not job interviews, but internal kind of informal meetings where you see would you make a good team, and you get to know the people, and some of them I knew already. And then everything below that is decided by the heads of the departments that I met with and decided upon that I trust them and feel like I can work with them because they know their department so much better. I mean, the lighting DP, Brian Boyd, he knows all the lighters. Chris Burrows, the CG soup, he knows all the tech people, so it's much better if they cast kind of the more down roles.
As a director, do you only give feedback or do you still actively animate?
I think it's two things. One was, when I directed short films with my friends at Studio Soy, we were a small group of people and everyone kind of actively hands-on worked on the films. And at Pixar, I only directed. I helped a bit out on the layout stuff because that's what I do before and it was like easy to just jump in and do some stuff myself. But it was weird just giving people feedback and then not doing any hands-on work yourself. So basically I just tell people, okay, these are my thoughts, these are my notes and fixes and changes. And then everyone went away and did them while I did nothing. So that was really strange. And the other thing was, and especially within Pixar, because the studio is built to be a feature studio. So you're basically using a studio and a pipeline and people who are used to work on a pace for feature films. So it takes a bit of switching gears to a short film, which is much more fast-paced. But the biggest challenge in the production of the Blue Umbrella was the final pictures would be so complex because there's rain and it's going to be photoreal and it's going to be really kind of impressionistic, strong, bold lighting that it was hard to judge all the separate pieces before seeing the final picture. It was hard to judge the animation and know, well, this is too subtle, we're not going to see it because the rain is going to be too distracting. But we didn't have the rain in the final picture at the time. So a lot of things were kind of, we said, okay, this looks good, I think it's going to be fine, but we have to wait for the final picture to see if with the overwhelming detail of the final picture, some stuff might not be clear enough.
Everybody seems to be really specialized. Is every studio structured like this?
Yeah, as soon as studios grow a certain size, or especially I think as soon as you move into feature films, the workload you need to do on the films is so big that, and the film gets kind of split up into millions of different tiny pieces that need to be worked on at the same time. Like someone models something while someone else shades it, while someone else builds the camera for that shot, while someone else probably already animates it, or generally like this. And for that, you need a very specialized crew of people. But that doesn't mean that the people at Pixar are not trained in multiple disciplines, like because they all come from a background. So in shorts, we get to use that more. In shorts, we can use people more to fulfill different roles in the production because it's such a smaller, kind of more fluid, organic process.
You also co-founded a small studio in Germany, Studio Soy. Which way of working do you prefer?
I mean, the reason why the friends of mine and me started Studio Soy was because we liked working together in a small group and we like doing every part of the process. Like, I mean, we studied at the Film Academy, you do everything on your film, and I really enjoyed every part of it. I enjoyed modeling and camera and lighting and compositing and animation. But when I moved to Pixar, and when you move to a big studio, you have to decide what you want to focus on. And for me, it was just basically which aspect of filmmaking would make me happy if I only would focus on it. I can still do other stuff for fun at home. I can do animation or whatever things, but work-wise. And for me, that was the cinematography of it, because for me, that's the closest you get to broad storytelling choices. And cinematography is visual storytelling, and that's something that I feel like is not used as much as it could, and it's something that really fascinates me. So it felt like, okay, if I need to focus on one of all the aspects, I am certain that this is the thing that will keep me happy without doing any of the other stuff. It's twofold. For one thing, if you want to go to a big company, if that's really what you want to do, then you should early on figure out what you want to focus on, what you want to do there, and then hone that skill and really learn that skill. Like if you want to be hired as an animator by a big company, they don't care about your lighting, they don't care about your rigging, they only care about your animation. If you get hired as a lighter, they don't care about the other stuff, and they're hiring that specific person. If a company like Pixar hires a lighter, they want that person to really love lighting and to be happy only doing lighting. So if you would come in and say, well, I have all these things I just love to work for your company, that is all great, but they're looking to hire a person to fulfill a specific job for the next I don't know how many years. So they want someone who is really happy doing that and only that. Of course, everyone loves cross-disciplined people, but still. And it's important to know other things. So that's the one thing. But I think during your studies, there's some people who know exactly what they want to do. And there's some people, and I was one of those people, who didn't know that yet. So I explored tons of different things. And even when I graduated, I didn't know it yet. That's why we did Studio Soy, and I did still everything. So I think you don't necessarily already have to know. If you want to go to a big company, you have to know, but it's different for everyone. Like some people don't like to focus on just one thing and like to do everything, and then they go to a different company. And it's kind of, you need to figure out what makes you the most happy, because ultimately that's where you're the best at.
After having done this dream project, what will you be doing next?
I have to see. I'm working on a couple of ideas, and I also help out on a couple of other shows that are running at Pixar at the moment in layout. And then I do tons of promotions for the Blue Umbrella, go to festivals and conferences and show it to people, which is fantastic. And it took a long time for me on Blue Umbrella to be really happy with the story. And a short film like the Blue Umbrella is just a commitment for a year. So I spend a year of my life on it, and the whole team spends a year of their life on it. So coming up with the idea which is good enough for so many people to spend a year of their life just doing this, I find already hard for that idea to be good enough. So it takes me a while to get an idea to a point where I feel like, no, I'm really convinced by it. So I'll see. I work on a couple of ideas. Maybe at one point I reach that stage. But while I do that, I just love doing the layout work I used to do before, and right now mostly just focusing on the release of the Blue Umbrella.
How do you usually find ideas?
I think it's hard to go out and search for an idea. What I realized during coming up with a story for the Blue Umbrella was that I already had collected tons of ideas, just things I liked. Like I walked through the world with open eyes, and just kind of, the idea for the Blue Umbrella came from one day I found a broken umbrella lying on the side of the street and just thought it looks incredibly sad, and took a picture of it that I just posted online. But there was no idea for a story at that point. It was just something I felt like that looked so sad. And then a year later or something like this, I kind of found myself with a bit of time and wanting to do something for fun on the side, and did a small animation test with an umbrella. But again, there was no story there. And then another year later, I wanted to come up with story ideas, and then I remembered this umbrella thing. And I wouldn't have remembered it if I wouldn't have taken the photo and if I wouldn't have made this animation. So I think it's a creative process of just working on things that you're interested in, and not even necessarily with a goal of a story, just kind of the artistic process of working on things and doing stuff with them for no reason whatsoever, I think is super important, because over time, over the years, you start to build a discourse with the things you like, and that stays with you. So at one point when you direct something, or when you do need a story, you can build up on all that kind of experience you gained.
Saschka Unseld, thank you very much for the interview.
You are very welcome. Thank you.
So I'm talking now to Christophe Hery, who is a senior scientist, right?
Yes.
At Pixar, and was also working on the short The Blue Umbrella. First of all, what does a senior scientist do? I mean, it's a scientist at Pixar?
Oh yeah, you know, I mean, Pixar is a company that has been around for a long time, and they're pioneers. We are pioneers in a lot of fields related to computer graphics. I mean, a lot of what all companies are using originated at Pixar or Lucasfilm before. I mean, Pixar was part of Lucasfilm. So a senior scientist does research, in my case, I do technologies related to rendering, shading, lighting in particular. That's my domain.
So what was special about the Blue Umbrella? What had to be done there?
Well, I think it's a short film, so we use it to test new technologies. In particular, in this one, we transferred some of the technologies we did for Monster University that I wrote for lighting onto that short. And we used it to great effect to make this hyper-real look at the end, this very shadow depth of field and the lights, you know, like having a lot of energy, and it's at night, and you can see those reflections really in your face, and we wanted bold colors and whatnot. So that's kind of where we took it, and the technology was there to help tell that story. Yeah.
So you look for what the story requires, and then you make the technology for it?
I think Pixar always looks story first, you know, like, no doubt. But, you know, at some point you work in parallel, you know, and you propose things. You know, there's a DP on the show. There's always like a team of people working together. And, you know, some proposal will be rejected, some will be kept. In this case, this hyper-real look, you know, is a big part of the story at the end somehow. You know, like, it could have been told very likely with different devices, you know, no doubt. But I think it enhances the storytelling aspect. And I think Saschka, the director, was very interested in rain and cities at night. And there's a quality about the lighting of the signs in the streets, of the lampposts and whatnot, on the rain, on the wet pavement and whatever that is we really wanted to capture in that story.
Is there any special outstanding innovation that was made for the Blue Umbrella, something really new?
I would say everything is new and innovative, you know, because it's a short film we worked on. We're always proud of it, obviously. I think people will see it as being different. You know, like it's taking Pixar in a slightly new look, I would say. And I'm not saying every feature film will be like that. No, you know, we're going to see what makes sense from there. But maybe we'll open the door to different you know, sensibilities and different ways of expressing the images in the future. Yeah.
Is there any piece of advice you would like to give to young filmmakers who maybe just start making their own films?
Let me think about that one. So that's a hard one because there's so many things. I mean, there's. I mean, the first thing I would say is to be passionate. You need to. I mean, this is a work where you're surrounded with artists, and you really need to be passionate about what you do, and that's how you succeed in this field, no matter what. Then it's about, you know, trying to see in your domain, because there's many specialties in such a movie, you know, from animation to modeling to rendering to compositing to anything, music and editing, obviously. And every step along the way, you want to make the best out of, you know, what you're given, and you want to participate. You want to be a filmmaker, you know. So be proud and try to push as hard as you can. Sometimes people will not accept it, obviously, and that's fine. You step back, and it's not necessarily your movie. It's everybody's movies, so everybody works together. But you know, try to put passion into it. I mean, for me, I came from a visual effects background, so I think it was interesting to bring that perspective at Pixar in an animation studio. I'm not saying they had no idea about it. I'm saying that I came with a lot of baggage in there, and so I can help bring that language there. So never hesitate to look outside of your field directly. That's what I would suggest. I mean, it helps in communication. It helps into bringing new ideas, innovation, and aesthetically or technically. Yeah.
Could you give us some thoughts about the current state of the industry? I mean, especially with regard to what happened to the people who did Life of Pi. How would you say is the future of the industry?
It's a tough time for sure right now, where the industry is, but it's also a renaissance time, I think. There's, you have to shake things up for new things to happen, and that's where we are, I think. Globalization is definitely here to stay. I don't think we're going to go back out of it. But you can use that to your advantage. There's, think about it, we complain sometimes that the jobs are going outside, that companies are opening subsidiaries in a different country. But at the same time, we all have laptops, we all have computers at home, and with the same technology, we can work from home too. So there's always good and bads about those different aspects. I find it kind of liberating. I mean, I wish it wasn't so hard on some of my friends in the visual effects industry right now. It's really difficult, for sure, in the short term. I'm hoping that it's going to be for the better, that everybody will find a place, that I don't think project will disappear. We're doing more and more animated movies. We're doing more and more live action with blue screen photography or green screen photography. I mean, you would be hard-pressed now having a director doing a lot of location shooting. Nowadays, a lot of it is done in Hollywood, in backstages, and done in post. So I think the industry has a strong future, in the United States. It's difficult right now. It's going to be reborn at some point, and hopefully for the better. Yeah.
That's it for the first episode of our FMX report. I hope you liked it, because we have a lot more of those interviews that we will be releasing in the next few weeks. Big thank you to the interview partners Saschka Unseld and Christophe Hery, who agreed to do the interview on very short notice. And of course, thanks to you for watching. Here's a sneak peek of the next episode.
The guidelines for a successful appealing character are extremely difficult. There is a certain bit here that is in that magical art world where it's coming from the soul of the artist.
As you flesh out the story, you will have a sort of a checklist thinking about, okay, what are my turning points? Something dramatic has to happen rather than something cool is happening.
Please check animatorisland.com for updates of the FMX report, as well as for great articles about general animation, storytelling, and acting topics.